Today's sponsor of the podcast is our friends 13. It is a high quality clothing line made by high quality people. From their t-shirts, their hoodies, their sweatpants, everything fits really nicely. They've been a longtime supporter of the show and I love everything that they put out. I'm telling you, the people behind the scenes are just wonderful people. So you gotta go support them. Check out their website at thur13en.com. Pick yourself up a t-shirt, maybe a hoodie. Just make sure you use the code word CoryCast at checkout and you're gonna save yourself a little bit of money. Not only is Antwauan Johnson the best dressed guy in the room, but he is also a phenomenal football coach as well as a stud athlete and a spectacular mortgage broker. I've had the privilege of working alongside him on a couple transactions, and I'm always inspired by his hustle, his drive, his availability. Antwauan has this drive and passion to help and serve other people, and it doesn't matter if you're on the football field or if you are in the office, he is there to help you and coach you along the entire way. Antwauan's one of the best guys that I know. In the second that he started working with us at First Priority, Howard Hanna, him and I immediately clicked. I could see his drive and his ambition completely leaked into his business, and he's just an all-around great dude. So this podcast really showcases how he can balance being a fantastic coach as well as how coaching correlates to being a mortgage broker. I mean, at the end of the day, you're just coaching people, right? If you are watching this on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Any little bit helps this podcast grow to a whole new audience. We should have done this podcast a lot sooner. I'm glad we finally have the opportunity to sit down and chat a little bit because this really showcases Antwauan's hustle, his drive, and his all-around great personality. So without further ado, here is my friend Antwauan Johnson. Oh, you're wearing Vans. I didn't know you were a Vans guy.
Should I hide them?
No, dude, I love that. Look,
yes,
Vans.
yes.
I got new Vans too.
Yes, sir.
Someone just gave me crap because I got the new Vans that are like, they're like comfort Vans.
Yes.
And they're like, well, it's not the traditional. I'm like, but I love Vans and they're comfy.
Yes.
I'm not much of a shoe guy though.
So I was, the reason why I ended up getting these white Vans was I was at Wegmans and I always talk to people. So I'm sitting there having a conversation with the cashier. And he was like, oh, I love your Air Force Ones. And I was like, oh, I love the shoes that you're wearing. You got the Vans on? And we had this great conversation. Ladies behind us like, these guys are talking sneakers right now?
She's like, I have to get my groceries, sir.
It was so funny. So he had white Vans on, and I only had the black pair. And I was like, you know what? Let me go get the white Vans.
Dude, respect. You're always the best dressed guy.
Oh, I appreciate it.
I immediately feel like I need to be in a suit.
So I was told that GQ magazine was looking for you, me, and Paul to go sexiest guys alive. I thought that
Paul
was
is another guy I would love to have on this podcast because that dude is like a character.
Oh, for sure.
I mean that in the best possible way. He's like he is the Utica. Like, do you remember Billy Facillo? Huge
Yes.
Tom. Like, that's what I see him as. Is like he's this fun, hilarious character.
Oh, yeah.
And he does so much business out there. It's crazy.
Big time.
And for being such a small town, it's crazy the numbers that he pumps out.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I thought he was going to be in town this morning because he said that he's coming in this afternoon. So I thought he was going to be in town this morning. I was going to be like, special guest, you have to show
him
up.
pop in.
Yes. But he said it was this afternoon that he was going to be here. So other than that, I was like, oh, it would be so
That's
funny.
hilarious. How did you land into mortgage lending anyways? I feel like I remember you saying you started as a real estate agent and then dipped your toe into mortgage lending?
Yeah, so multiple different situations that happened, but I started off as a real estate agent, did that for a little bit, ended up blowing out my knee playing basketball. As a real estate agent, you know that we're constantly on the go, you're moving around, you're showing people houses, things of that nature. I couldn't do it anymore. So I ended up going back to Raymore and Flanagan. That's where I was working at the time. And when I was there for about a year. My knee got better, and I was like, I want to get back into real estate. And one of my friends at the time was like, have you ever thought about doing the mortgages? And I was like, no, I never thought about that. So I was like, you know what? Let me look into that. So I started looking into it. I was trying to purchase a rental property at the time, and no offense to the guy that did the information, but he wasn't able to get me qualified, but missed out on a couple of things that would have helped. And that's what triggered me into how many people are we missing or can't get qualified or can't do something for just because they're overlooking certain things that would get them qualified. So it made me look into it. I was like, I definitely want to be able to help people to get into homes.
Interesting. Just because of that one experience that you had.
Correct.
Wow. And to become a licensed mortgage lender, what does that process look like? Because I only know the real estate side of it.
Yeah, so there's the SAFE exam. Oh my goodness, that thing. You got to go through the schooling part of it. And then you have the SAFE exam that you got to take. That is tough. So it goes over all the different things for mortgages.
There's probably so much math involved in that test, right?
Crazy part is you do all this math in this test and you're stressing out. You get into it, you got different formulas for everything. You just plug numbers in and it just takes care of it all.
Oh, so that's funny. Now, was that, because in the real estate course, I felt like it was more legal definitions and it didn't tell you how to sell real estate or conduct your business. Was that kind of the same for mortgage?
Very much so. So, I mean, it goes into the legality of everything, make sure that you're doing everything, by the book, which is great. You want to make sure that you're taking care of things and you're not doing anything illegal. But it doesn't go into how to actually do the mortgages and things of that nature. But I had a great team. Karen Cook was one of the managers out in Rochester. God rest her soul. She passed away recently. That bothered me a little bit, but she helped guide me through all of that stuff. Carmen Crescenti, he came in. That's my manager now. Took care of a lot of that as well, guiding me so that I'm able to be successful. And Christine Nothnagel, they phenomenal. Like resources. Call them for anything, ask them any questions.
Yeah, they're good people.
Yeah, they're able to help.
You knew Carmen, right, before in a past life, right?
Yeah, so yes, I actually knew his son. So I coached his son Liverpool football. Completely forgot about this, and Carmen's looking at my resume when I, plugged it in, and he called me. We had a great conversation, and it just, it's funny how things go full circle.
Yeah. You never know, especially when you were like coaching. You were not thinking, you were Raymore and Flanagan at that time,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So you probably weren't thinking that far in advance that was ever going to be an opportunity.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's interesting. And then you've been coaching football for how long?
So since 2015. So
wow.
Yeah, 9 years. So, but it was on and off. So I did. It was 3 years that I coached with Coach Mancuso over at Liverpool High School. Then I had to take time off. I ended up becoming the manager at Raymore and Flanagan. Schedule just didn't align, so I had to take the time off. And then I got in the job with First Priority Mortgage, and they were like, "We love that you coach. We want you to continue coaching." So I was like, "Oh, that's awesome."
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
I love the work-life balance that this job provides. I think like real estate is a very broad net, but there's like so many different facets to the term real estate, like real estate agent, mortgage lender, home inspector. All these kind of like jobs almost are great in the sense that it lets you balance your time between things.
Agreed. Yes.
Like especially when you go from the retail setting, which is that is a tough world, right?
Yes.
And especially very demanding of your schedule, So was the shift to become to get into mortgage lending, was it to have that more freedom of your time?
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things. Like I went through this thing where I was like, hey, you know what? I want to be able to have time for myself, time for my family, time to be able to volunteer. I'm a big faith guy. So faith is huge in every single thing that I do. So I prayed for a position to open up that I'm able to have the free time and able to volunteer and able to be around my family. Unfortunately, with the retail hours, especially when you're doing sales and things of that nature, you have to be open for every holiday. So, I mean, outside of Christmas and
Thanksgiving.
Those
are the only two holidays we got off.
Correct. So other than that, you missed every holiday. So I wanted to be around family more. I have a lot of nieces and nephews, 8. And you're like, you know what? I want to be around that. So that's what made me make the switch.
Was it just like you missing those other events and stuff that made you like kind of rethink your goals?
Yeah. So believe it or not, it was my sister-in-law. We were sitting down at my nephew's basketball game. I was able to make one, slid out of work early. And I'm sitting down at his basketball game, and she's like, "Oh, thank you so much for coming." And I was like, "Of course, I always come to his stuff." And she's like, "No, no, you're always working." And that's when it like clicked, and I'm like, "Oh my goodness,
right?
Yeah, I'm missing a lot because I am always working, and
Right.
and it's those holidays, those weird hours that you're working, so you miss things that you don't even pay attention to.
Yeah. Did you have like early days at Raymore and Flanagan?
Yeah, so you had some different shifts. So you had the 9:30 to 6 shift that you were able to get out a little bit early.
Yeah, but 9:30 to 6 also felt like it was smack dab in the middle of the day.
Yes.
Because you don't get out till 6:30. Like, then you're trying to do errands, and it's like you got an hour left before stores close, and yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, so that one was tough. We had the 11 to 7, and then we had the 12 to 9. So both of those shifts are always tough because those are right. You know, one is right in the middle of the day. The other one, you're doing a closing shift. So you got some things that you could do in the morning, but for the most part, if you're trying to hang out with family, they're either working, at school, things to that nature. So you kind of still miss that stuff.
Right. When you were a real estate agent, how long were you like a practicing agent for?
I think it was 4 months, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So within the first 2 weeks, I ended up getting a sell. It's so funny. Me and Donna Jordan was just talking about this. First 2 weeks, I ended up getting a sell.
Dude, no one gets a sale in their first 2 weeks.
It was crazy. I couldn't believe it.
That's wild.
Yeah. So Joe Nastry, he actually gave me a client and had me show him around one weekend. The gentleman was moving in from out of town, and he really needed to purchase a house. So we showed him multiple different houses, and just right then and there, he was
Wow.
like, I want to put in an offer. We put in an offer. This was before the pandemic happened. Everything went through
Yeah.
the roof.
Yep.
So we put
Were
in
you
an
writing
offer
that
and got
offer?
it.
Were you like panicking, being like, Joe, I need help. How do I do this? Because I remember doing the same thing. I was like, yeah, we could definitely write an offer. No problem. We'll meet you in the office like an hour. And then, Donna, please, could you help me, please?
I'm so nervous. It was awesome though. So the experience was awesome. Learning, taking the guy around, like it was a phenomenal thing. So, but yeah, it was just unfortunate how everything happened. So with my knee and not being able to continue.
Well, you at least were still you still made a transition to a business that allowed you to kind of like balance your time better.
Yes.
And that seems to be the main goal rather than money being the end goal. It was like, I just want the freedom of my time and the flexibility of my time.
Yeah. Yeah, one of my friends, he's in pharmaceutical sales, older gentleman. He told me that. He was like, as you get older, he's like, you're going to realize that the most valuable asset is your time. And I didn't listen to him back then. I'm in my 20s.
young,
I'm like,
yeah.
what are you talking about? Like, I'm
My
chasing
knee's
money.
fine. My knee hasn't blown out yet.
Yeah, so that's what it was. I'm chasing money. I'm gonna do this. This is what we're gonna do. And then as time went on, just like you said, my thing, like everything shifted. It was like, no, you know what? My time is more valuable than the money. Obviously, you want to make the money so that you're able to support your family and provide.
But at least you have the balance, you know what I'm saying?
Correct. But the balance is key. It's
Right.
perfect.
It's like even Faye Coffee is the usual home inspector I use a lot.
Yep.
And I saw him last night and we were talking. He was at the Mets game, but he was telling me, he's like, yeah, when I get home, I got to finish some 2 inspection reports. And just being able to like have the freedom and still be there with his daughter,
Yep.
hang out, be present, and then, all right, I'm going to go put her down for bed, and then I'm going to work on my business.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get that opportunity in a lot of other businesses.
No,
You know?
totally agree.
But even though there's pros, there's also like cons to the business. With you now being in mortgage lending for a year now, year and a half?
2.5 years.
2.5
It's
years,
cra-
dude. Oh my God, 2.5
Flying by.
years. Wow,
We've known each other
years.
for a while now, Cory.
I know. It's wild because it doesn't seem like that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
What is like a big con to the mortgage lending side?
I think one of the biggest for me is when I feel like when I can't get somebody approved. I told you one of the biggest things that I try to do is try to help people. I try to help people as much as possible. And then there's certain situations where you just, unfortunately, you're not able to get them approved. And that bothers me deeply. Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to sleep with, and I have to let that go because I still guide them so that they're able to be set up in the future to be able to have a mortgage.
Yeah.
But that for me, that's what bothers me the most.
Yeah, and it's hard, especially because with being a mortgage broker, you're in a position where you can work with many different banks, not
Yes.
just one. But that doesn't change like the limits on what you would have available
Correct.
to you, and it's not like you can make wine out of water every time, like sometimes you're very limited on what you can do.
Yeah.
When you're in this position, I would imagine the joy of being able to like walk people through that contract to close is probably it probably feels very similar to how I feel. Like I'm very thankful I get that opportunity because, dude, retail was just like, here's a lawnmower, see you later, have a good day.
Yep.
Now I'm like, here's your first home. Here's the keys to your first house that
Yeah.
you're never gonna forget. You know, so it kind of like weighs a little bit more. But you now have the freedom of your time to focus on things that like you're passionate about. And I think that helps your business a little bit.
Oh, for sure.
It kind of helps you stay sane, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it gives you a lot of peace of mind. A lot of peace of mind. You're able to do what you're passionate about, and then you're able to still be excited and whatnot, coming back to work and being able to help people. So it's great. And then just tapping off of what you just said, it's phenomenal when you're able to see people's faces light up from helping them. You know what I mean? So especially when they get declared a close and then they're in their house and then you get this glowing review, like we would have never got this house if, you know what I mean? It's just, it's phenomenal. So it leads into my passion of being able to help people and do football. So
yeah, it's let's you fill your cup as well as someone else's.
Correct.
Right? Is there any correlation between coaching football and like the mortgage lending?
there is a lot of correlation back and forth. I mean, for football, the biggest thing is having the kids' best interest in mind. You know, you want to be able to coach them for the sport, but you're also doing life lessons in coaching. You're teaching them multiple different things: time management. You're teaching them discipline, perseverance. A lot of those things still fall into real estate and mortgage lending. Mortgage lending, same thing. You're trying to guide them in the same direction. You're trying to make sure that you have their best interests in mind. If currently they're not able to get approved, you want to be able to show them the way of being able to get approved. Making sure that they have the discipline and being able to persevere through multiple offers that they're going through right now that they're not getting accepted. So it's as long as you always have the person's best interest in mind, you can see the correlation between the two.
Yeah, I think you'll come out on top that way too.
For sure.
What a powerful position, because like when I was in high school, I didn't really have an outside role model other than maybe like my dad, right? Or like a family member. But I think when you're a young, impressionable kid, having another adult that's not family related that you look up to has got to be huge.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Like that's got to be cool too, in a sense.
Yeah, so a lot of the parents have my phone number, so they're able to reach out to me directly, and I want them to have that access to me. And we have, right now, you know, it's the big emphasis is their grades. You want to make sure that their grades are good and whatnot so that they're able to get into colleges. And I have parents reaching out to me, sending me their report cards, and they're like, hey, can you please talk to this? Can you talk to so-and-so to make sure that they're on top of their grades? And and they know that kids listen to that outside voice more than they will sometimes do the inside.
From parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
So being able to guide and help them in that sense, it's phenomenal.
Where have you learned all your coaching stuff from?
Honestly, I have to give a shout out to a lot of the coaches that brought me in 2015, which was CJ Vavakwa. He was phenomenal. He's baseball and Liverpool football. Frank Nettie, he's a phenomenal coach as well. He's still up there with us right now. Robert DeLong, he's amazing, amazing. He remembers back in the time when I played against Liverpool when I was at CNS. And Coach Mancuso. I know that I'm missing a lot of different coaches that was there that year, but those coaches were phenomenal in my development as a coach. They gave me the freedom to be able to guide my players, my athletes. I was the running back and strength and conditioning coach, but they gave me the freedom to be able to do what I felt like I wanted to do with the guys. At first, I'm like, so what do you guys want me to do? And they're like, you know, do your thing. I'm like,
Yeah, 2015 Antwauan, like, what do you
mean?
Yeah.
So, but they gave me the freedom, and obviously they would, you know, still guide you in the direction that they want you to go, but they gave me the freedom to be able to coach my guys the way that I wanted to. And then when I would give them insight on different plays and whatnot, the coach was very empowering, because I would be like, Coach, I think we should do this play in the game. And he'd be like, okay. And he would do the play. And I'm like, wow.
Did you learn these plays from like playing for CNS back in the day? or have you been like read books, or you probably watch so much football, I bet.
So I mean, between the study, like I've done so much film work between CNS, University of Buffalo. That's where I played. I played semi-pro out in Utica. So you've done so much film work, and then when you're preparing for the season, you're sitting down, you're watching game film on the teams that you're playing, and you look for tendencies of certain players and what they do. And once you're watching it in the game and they're constantly doing the same thing, you're like, oh, coach, this play is going to work. So that's where you get it from. You're able to call them out from that.
Interesting. Because we do the same thing in martial arts. When I have like one of my guys going up against somebody, we do our due diligence and we look them up and we try to watch. But that, for me, is a lot easier to put into a box because it's one person, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I can watch that one person. And when it comes to football, how many kids are on a team?
Yeah, so you at least on the field, we got 11 on each side.
That's a lot to be like, oh, for me, I'm like, oh, he drops his hand when he throws his jab. But for you have 11 kids you're trying to like pay attention to on tendencies. How do you pick that out?
Honestly, it's watching multiple different plays. So you'll see some kids leaning a certain direction when they're going to go that way.
Interesting.
Yeah, same with their hands alignment on defense. Sometimes if their hands are back, you see them leaning back, that means they're pulling back. If you see them leaning forward, they're going to be aggressive and tack forward. Damn. Oh, yeah, it's multiple different things that it gives away. And I try to teach that with my kids to make sure that they're not giving any keys away. We were actually going over that yesterday because we got a couple spring practices that we're doing right now. So we're going over different things to make sure that they're not giving away any tendencies, so that everything looks the same every single time they go up to the line of scrimmage.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. So you guys are like running plays and practicing even in spring session. Mm-hmm. Is there like a summer practice camp or something?
Oh yeah. So right now it's only for a week long. We have 8th graders all the way up to seniors. They're practicing, going over different plays. This one it's fun. This one is fun because you got the kids. They're all excited. You know, it's been a long time without football. At least to us, it's been a long time without football.
You guys get it's like September to November?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
So super excited right now. The kids are excited. You're seeing some 8th graders make plays over juniors, and you're like, oh my goodness, you know, getting them all excited and ramped up. So, but yeah, then the springtime comes. That's when it starts to get a little bit more serious. But as soon as fall hits, that's where we're in. We're ready to go.
We're hitting the ground running. It's almost when school starts, right? That's when football pretty much starts, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting, especially after so much time you spent in football. Is there one person, coach, player that you like look up to or try to emulate their style?
Two things that you just said. Coach. As soon as you said coach, the first coach that came to mind was Pete Moore. Shout out Pete Moore. He's at CNS. He's the strength and conditioning coach, but he was my 9th grade coach at CNS, and he phenomenal. Like he is the coach that I try to emulate my style after.
How so? What are you trying to copy from Pete?
With Pete, it's hard to describe, but you wanted to do anything for him. You know what I mean? Like he talked to you in a way that he empowered you, he encouraged you, but at the same time he challenged you. He challenged you to be better, challenged you to be a better person as well as a player. And so for me, like when you played for him, you would do anything. Like anything he asked you to do, you're like, yes, no problem. There was never an issue. And you wanted to perform to your best abilities for him. And so I try to do that with my players. I try to empower them to be a better version of themselves. I want them to I give them the tools for their arsenal. So I give them multiple different things that they're able to utilize on the field. I don't want them to run like me. I don't want them to be like me. I want them to be themselves, but provide them with multiple different tools that they're able to use in their tool belt. Wow. And so then I'll also empower them by giving them the ability to have different options depending on what the play is to be able to run their style. So that's the biggest thing. When you're able to run the way you want to run as a running back, it's unlimited. Mm-hmm. You can do anything.
And when you're empowering them, is it just the phrases you use? Is there like a certain technique that you have?
For me, when I empower my kids, it's being able to have different conversations with them. I'm not one of those yell, rah, rah, like in your face type coaches. I'm one of those coaches that you're able to come up to me. You're able to have conversation with me. You're able to tell me what you see on the field as opposed to me telling you. I will show you, like we have multiple different tablets that we're able to review plays and things of that nature. I'll show you what I see, but then I'll ask you, because it's always different when you're out on a field and things are moving fast in front of you.
Their perspective versus your outside sideline perspective.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I can. It's easy for me to be able to tell you what I saw, reviewing a play. I can tell you what I saw in the moment too, but I want to know your perspective. What did you see? What's going on out there? That's the conversations that I always have with my kids whenever they come off to the sideline. So what did you see? What happened? What do you think will work? And then they'll tell me, and I'll be like, well, this and this is what I'm seeing, so we're gonna try this. And that's how, like, when they have that say, when they're able to have that conversation and be able to speak to you freely, it's endless.
Yeah, the in-your-face yelling, coach, the quickest way for me to shut down.
Correct.
You want me to shut down and not want to participate in football anymore? Scream at me and I'm done.
Exactly.
I'm like, donezo. But with coaching, what's always been interesting to me is like when I corner guys, each person, now we're talking difference between kids and adults, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like every person is different in the style that they like to be coached.
Yes.
Like I have a guy that I know if I call him a dummy because he dropped his hands, he takes it to heart and he will listen rather than me being like, hey, could you please like put your hands up? But the way that you communicate and emphasize that to each person has got to be like a dial. Like you got to slightly like turn it one way or the other to their personality almost.
Oh, for sure.
Like, and I think asking them those questions, like those open-ended questions, it's smart because it gives them the buy-in.
Yeah.
Right? Like it really makes them like feel like you value their opinion, right? Because you do, right?
Yes, of course.
You want their input on how things are going.
That's the biggest thing.
The sideline perspective has got to be so much different than being on the field.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm asking you because I'm the freaking novice when it comes to football. I'm not a ball sports kind of guy.
Yeah.
So the perspective that they have on the field, how is it different than the sideline?
So honestly, when you're out there on the field, it's like the game is so much faster. It's a weird perspective. Like people watching it on TV, you watching it on a sideline, you're able to be like, how didn't he see that? How didn't he see that? But when you're actually in it and you don't have the full picture view, you have a limited view that you're able to see from without giving away any keys. The game is so fast. So you have to be reactionary to multiple things that's happening in front of you. So the perspective is just a little bit different. You're on a sideline, you don't have to be reactionary. You're like, oh, there it is. The hole's right there on the right-hand side. Yeah. Why did you miss it? You know? And when you're moving so fast, that's why you missed it.
Do you also feel like that could also be a similarity between coaching and being a loan officer? Because they're like in the thick of it and they do it once in their life, maybe twice, 3 times in their life, depending on how many times they buy a house. But they're in the thick of it, and things seem to go a lot quicker when you're in the heat of the battle, and then having a coach, loan officer on the sidelines to help with that bigger picture, that's got to help too.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Guiding you, being able to coach you in the direction that you need to go, for sure. It gives a bigger perspective to everything that's going on.
It's just interesting with coaching and with kids or adults. It's all about like how you can effectively communicate with them. And that's the same in sales or lending. It's like, how can you effectively communicate and figure out what their goals are?
Yeah.
Right. Like finding out if they need to use a grant program or something, like trying to figure out if, you have a kid who's better at the right side of the field or the left side of the field. Like it's all trying to figure out from the outside perspective. When you got into lending, did you think there was going to be any correlations between the two?
Honestly, I had no idea. I had no idea until it started, like everything started to click. You're like, oh my goodness, like how do I do this to be effective? Because obviously every single thing that you do or you get into, you want to make sure that you're good at it. You want to make sure that you're able to take care of people. So one of the biggest things is that I had to work on me first before I was able to get into everything else. So, you want to establish credibility. Make sure that people know that you're knowledgeable. So you're sitting there and you're working and you're trying to learn as much as you possibly can, just like you would in a sport, so then you can impact change. So then you're able to have those conversations with a client that may be like, oh, I wasn't able to get approved before. Well, what were your goals? What were you looking for? You're able to have those conversations. Like you said, you can find a grant program. You can find sellers concessions that may potentially help them be able to purchase a home, or even thinking outside the box, being creative, you know, having a co-signer, a co-borrower that would help you out with that. So a gift if you didn't have enough funds. So you got multiple things that's going through your mind that you're able to help this person. But it's just making sure that you have the right knowledge, the right know-about to be able to help them. You got to be able to have them trust you. That's a big thing with sports as well. Trust. You got to have trust between the players. I have to have trust with my clients. My clients have to be able to tell me anything and everything that they have going on with their finances.
How do you build that trust, though?
Just effectively communicating. Communication's another thing.
Right.
So just being able to have conversations with them. Honestly, when I talk to my clients in the beginning, most of the time, obviously, they call me. They're looking for a pre-approval. So we'll go through that. But in the time of having that pre-approval, it's having conversations. Okay, do you have any dependents? They start talking about their kids. I have 2 or 3 kids. Oh, what are their names? Different things to that nature, so that you're able to have a better relationship with them. It's not just a business relationship. This is a lifelong relationship.
Right.
I want to be able to help you, not just in this one transaction, but if you go to buy another house, I want to help you in the next one. If your kids are buying houses, I want you to think of me. So every single time you have that transaction, you're building that relationship with them. And that's how you got to see it. Like even with my kids now, like I had called my pastor after this past season, and he was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I'm emotional right now." He was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I just lost a lot of my seniors." And he's like, "Hey, you got more kids coming up." And he's like, "It's going to be tough for you."
Yeah.
He's like, "Because you get connected to the kids."
Yeah.
And you get connected to your clients.
Especially when you've been doing it since 2015. You've seen how many classes come and go from start to finish now, right? Like at least 4 or 5 classes you've seen go from 8th graders to seniors graduating.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's got to be tough.
But the crazy part is, like, in your mind, you're losing them. You know what I mean? In your mind, you're losing them, but you still have those relationships.
Yeah.
They still reach out to you. They still have those conversations with you. And it's so many different connections that you've made between them, their parents, different things to that nature, that they always feel comfortable reaching out to you.
How many times are those kids reaching out to you after college? I bet so many times, dude.
Oh, my goodness. I had one reach out to me the other day.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So he reached out to me via social media because he seen me post our team practicing right now. He's like, "Oh, who's the coaches there now?" And I tried to get him to come to the practice. I'm like, "Listen, having past players come and see what's going on and being able to talk to the kids on their different experiences and their experiences with life, it's phenomenal." So just trying to keep those rapport with the kids is phenomenal. Trying to guide them. Now they're in the real world, being able to do life different things. You had one of my athletes come and talk to you about real estate. So,
yeah, he was a good kid.
Yeah, being able to do different things like that to guide them to see if that's different things that they want to do, or help them in further along. You know, life things that you can do for them.
I feel like one cornerstone of your personality is serving. Like I feel like you love to help people and serve, like not even just kids, but also like adults
for
too,
sure.
you know, and instilling that in those kids, dude, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's not many people get that opportunity, or if they do, they kind of fudge it up, to be honest, you know, like it's a heavy weight to bear when you're trying to be a good role model for all these different kids, you know?
Yeah. So it comes from life lessons. You know, I've had my past like everybody else, and there's different things that you come across that you're like, I want to do and share my experiences so that they're able to so that they're further along. You don't want them to go through any of the trials that you went through that you had to figure out. Right. You want to be able to guide them past it.
That's the classic parent dilemma, right?
Yeah.
It's like you don't want your kids to go through the crap that you had to when you were younger.
Exactly.
You know? So trying to give them a better life, and especially with you leading by example, I think weighs heavy for these kids. I never had school sports. Like I stayed away from school sports when I was younger, mostly because I was a nerd and I was very uncoordinated.
It's all right.
But I never had somebody who was like in your position who I could look up to when I was a kid that was outside the family. So I'd imagine that's got to be heavy for these kids and really important for these kids, especially at a young, impressionable age, you know?
Yeah, honestly, I never thought of it that way. I just try to do my best to make sure that I want them to be great human beings. You know what I mean? I want them to be able to move forward in a good light. So I'm like, listen, every single thing that I can do to give back, to get them in the right position, that's what I want to do. If there's a kid that's on a football team that wants to get a scholarship, okay, let me tell you the ways that it's going to take you to get there. Let's make sure your grades and things are correct and to that nature. If there's a kid that's like, you know what, I don't want school, I don't want to do it after, okay, so what is your plans? What are your goals? Goal setting is a huge thing.
Are you somebody who sets, like, do you write your goals down and stuff?
I used to.
Yeah.
So I used to write my goals down. I mean, now my goals are pretty much similar. My main goals are pretty much similar, but gym goals, things to that nature, those are always written down.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have like a business plan that you do?
Yes. I always do a business plan. My business plan changes every year. So I reevaluate, see exactly where I got, so then I'm able to try to advance it from there.
When you're doing your business plan, are you also thinking like not just business, but like personal goals too?
Personal is the main part of my business planning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So business is more of the side.
Correct.
For me, it's reverse. That's interesting.
Yeah. So personal wise is because if I'm able to do what I need to do in my personal relationships, my business is gonna go along with it.
Wow. Amen. Yeah, that's a good way to think of it.
So that's what gets me. So like in personal coaching is my huge thing. If I'm doing that and I'm passionate about it, I'm talking to the kids, I'm making sure I'm guiding my kids. I'm also still gaining business from it because I'm meeting a lot of people too.
Yeah, networking opportunity, right?
So it's always there. If I'm volunteering, that's one thing that's big to my heart. I go down to the Samaritan Center, make sure that I'm doing that. If I'm volunteering, I'm still down there, and I'm down there with multiple different people that I'm able to have conversation with, whether it's about sports, whether it's about, what we're serving and doing at that time. And then obviously my job always comes up on, hey, what do you do? That's the classic line that a lot of people do just to have conversation with you.
Yep.
So if I'm doing those things, I'm still gaining business elsewhere, and then making sure that I'm still talking to my real estate agents. My real estate agents become friends, and now we're going out, we're having lunch, we're having different conversations, we're building relationships. So as long as I'm doing what I need to do in my personal life, my business life will succeed.
Yeah. When you're doing your business plan, are you writing like the very like specifics of what you are holding yourself accountable to in terms of coaching?
Oh yes, that's one of my biggest things, is because I know that the very first thing that we always have to do is strength and conditioning. When I'm doing my business planning, strength and conditioning for coaching is the big part. So I have to design their whole workout to make sure that it's strength building, there's flexibility, all the different things that you need, the speed, power, agility. So as I'm writing my business plan and I'm writing down their workouts, like they're starting to correlate. And you're like, all these different things is different things that we're gonna need. And then my business plan starts to go from there. Like, okay, so now that we got the kids done, now we have different things that I need to do to move on to my agents. Now it's my real estate agents of what I want to do and be able to help them with and being able to guide them. So it all blends.
The strength and conditioning that you're doing, are you also doing those same workouts with the kids?
So I'm very selfish when it comes to my workouts.
Yeah.
So I won't once in a blue moon, I'll work out with the kids. But I do test the workouts before they do them.
I was just, but your goals are different, right? From the kids?
Correct.
Like you're trying to get some shoulder boulders, you know what I'm saying? You're not trying to run faster or
no. So I still keep myself in shape because the kids challenge me and I have to, show them.
You gotta show them what's up.
Yeah. Like,
you gotta
listen,
show them Antwauan still got
and then
it.
I make sure I tell them like, that's a 35-year-old man,
That 35-year-old man just beat you in a race.
So I still try to make sure that myself is still in shape. So I won't do it in front of the kids. I'll do box jumps and things on the side in my gym to make sure that I still got it.
Yeah.
So then, you go to the
How many days a week you working
embarrass
out?
it. I normally try to do 6 days.
6 days, Antwauan? Oh my God.
I normally try to do 6 days.
So you're doing probably like arms one day, legs next day, and alternating them?
So I normally do, my 3-day split is normally like back, by, chest, try, leg, shoulders, and then rest day, repeat.
Interesting. You ever mess with kettlebells, or is it all like barbell?
I switch everything up. So like
that's brilliant.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll do it for like 4 weeks, and then I'll change it.
Yeah.
So I'll do barbells one time. I'll do kettlebells. I'll do dumbbells. Like it's constantly switching. So
kettlebells are like my go-to for functional strength, just because like jiu-jitsu, I don't really need to bench. Like maybe if a guy's on me, but like what's more beneficial is me doing a Turkish get-up, like being able to frame while posting on my elbow and slowly getting up. Like that would be more beneficial. So I do those that are focused towards my sport.
For sure.
So
different kind of strength.
Exactly. So like when you're working out you're not thinking in terms of like football because you're not playing football anymore,
No,
right?
not anymore. I used to pound and try to get as strong as I possibly could. I used to want to be the strongest guy in the gym. But yeah, no, those days.
Those goals change, right?
Those days are
when
gone.
did that change for you? When you were like 30? You hit 30, you were like, I can't be doing this anymore.
Honestly, I think so. I think it was 30, 31. Yeah. Because it's so much on your joints. Like you start to feel it more as opposed to when you're younger. You're like, this is fine. Let's get under there.
Yeah.
It's different. You get under there now and you're like, oof, shoulder.
Recovery is so much more important when you're older, right?
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing for recovery?
Oh, I do the ice baths. Yes.
I got you hooked, dude.
You did. Ice baths.
You know what's funny though is I got you hooked and I have not done one since.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And back in high school, I hated ice baths. Hated it. But I see the benefit. Like when you get in and once you get out and you're like, oh.
Are you doing it right after a workout?
Sometimes. Sometimes I'm able to. Other times I can't. Sometimes I got to just do it when I'm like, okay, I need to get in now. Like I'm hurting. I'm in pain. So, but other than that, it's great. The recovery. So, and then I've been trying to do more with flexibility, range of motion, things to that nature.
Yeah.
I mean,
stretching before and after.
Oh, yes.
My mistake was I always stretched before, but stretching after, dude, I've seen way more gains in my flexibility than I have with stretching just before. I don't know what it is. I think it's like just after you're all warmed up and you actually got done with a hard workout. I don't know if that like gets you deeper in the stretch or that helps, but that has tremendously helped my flexibility.
And flexibility's got to be huge for you.
Exactly. Yeah. If there's no way I'm going to head kick you if I don't have a good split or a good
right to your shoulder.
That's right, dude. I couldn't do it in these pants. I might burst my ass out in the pants. But flexibility is like super important. It's just not even like in jiu-jitsu, but also like I don't want to be 55 and not able to touch my toes.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like there's a guy at the gym who's one of my coaches. That dude is 60 years old and he rolls every freaking time. Every Sunday he's there. He's grappling. The guy's 60. He's grappling with guys who are bigger than him. There's another guy who also, I love this dude to death, and he's going through chemo treatments.
Wow.
And he still shows up to grapple. He still shows up to do stuff. It is mind-blowing, and it's like motivating to me because I'm like, bro, if he can come here 3 days after he gets chemo, I can get my ass up and get my butt to class. Like there's no excuse not to.
Yeah.
That self-motivation, dude, is hard though.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I was going to ask, have you had a conversation with them? Ask them what like drives them to do that?
It's because he loves it so much and the fact that he feels like if he stops doing it, his body's going to shut down.
That makes sense.
And he also shifts his focus. It's not, chemo's going to drain me. It's chemo happens Wednesday. I need to get my ass into class so I can prove to myself I can still move and I can still get things going.
Wow.
It is motivating to be around him. Yeah. But also for me, I'm like, I should have zero excuses. Zero.
Yeah.
Zero. Like I sometimes I'm like, I got Ashton with me and I don't want to bring him to class but like, why not? He loves coming, so I'll just bring him with me. Like I feel like a lot of times I'm guilty of making excuses up in my head that are not real. Yeah. Like it's just me trying to make an excuse and just get out quick. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Right? And it's like, do you have to battle that with the kids a lot? There's got to be,
for sure.
right? Like,
for sure.
Like how do you instill mental toughness in kids?
Honestly, it's just that's a great question.
Right? Because that's tough. You can't teach that.
Yeah, I'm sitting there just like, you're just having them battle, battle through different things. There's times that they don't want to do it. There's times that I don't want to go to the gym. But that's when they have to learn discipline. Discipline is going to beat motivation all the time. You may be motivated one day to get up and do this. You may be motivated one day to get up and eat healthy, but you have to have the discipline to continue to do it. And it's just having those conversations over and over, like, listen, you got to be disciplined. You got to be disciplined. And then you have to ask them, do they know what discipline is? Because sometimes
and you also have to live that virtue too.
Exactly.
Like for me, it's always been just be a role model of other people. Because I remember when I started at Tai Chi and I was a white belt, I had people like Crazy Mike. He used to fight professionally for Bellator. Wow. And at the time, he had just started his professional career. And I remember watching him in training. And I was always appreciative of Mike watching how like locked in he was. Like there was no like he would laugh and have a good time, but there was no wasted time.
Yeah.
He was there with a purpose and training with a purpose. And I always like admired him in that aspect.
I love that.
So like, but you don't have to be a professional fighter to like take training seriously or your workout seriously.
Correct.
Like you could take this kind of stuff seriously just because you want to have a better life or you want to learn something cool or you want to get stronger. But with kids, how do you get them to channel that energy and to see that? That's got to be a real struggle.
Yeah, it's a constant daily thing that you're just, focusing on having them be disciplined. I mean, they showed up. That's that part. That's right. Step one, being able to encourage them that, look, you guys showed up, but now it's time to put in the work, you know? And like I said, sometimes they don't want to, sometimes you don't want to, but you want to keep them moving. You want to keep them, show them that, discipline is going to win every single time. And you can't let that little voice in your head where you're like, I don't feel like doing this. You can't let that win. There's times that you seriously, I don't want to go. There's times that I don't, or not to practice, but there's times that I don't want to go to the gym myself. And you wake up and you're like, I gotta go. I gotta go. And sometimes those are the best workouts.
Yep. Amen.
Sometimes they are. And the kids, they say that too. They're like, oh my goodness, I'm happy that we really did this. I'm happy we did this. I'm happy I got through this. I didn't think that I was going to. And those are the best ones sometimes.
I heard a great analogy that it was like discipline is kind of like bicep curls. When you first do bicep curls for the first time, you're doing 20. 20 is a struggle, right?
100%.
But then you move up to 35.
Yep.
Then you move up to 45. And with enough practice, you're like, I could curl 55-pound dumbbells. But you don't get to 55 without like all that beginning work, right? So it's like, it's almost like your mental toughness is the same thing where you need to get like those reps in.
Yep.
Like it's not just something that you can just like wake up and do immediately.
Oh,
you know,
for sure.
It's like something that you need to show up constantly for. And those are the best day. You get the best workouts from those days.
Yep.
When you wake up and you're like, oh man, I don't want to go. This sucks. But you drag your butt there and then you're like, how did I just hit a PR?
Yep.
How did I just break my deadlift? Like how did I do that?
Yep.
It's I don't know. And I especially think it's got to be hard when you're doing like trying to instill those values into kids.
Yeah.
Like
the best part is that you do all these different things that you try for the kids, trying to show them time management, perseverance, being resilient, being a team player, different things to that nature, sportsmanship, which is something that's fallen on the wayside. So you try to do all these things with the kids. And sometimes you're like, man, it's falling on deaf ears. They're not getting it. But they do.
Yeah, they're listening.
And later on, it shows up in life. And there's going to be times that it's going to click to them like, oh my goodness, Cory said this or Coach Johnson said this. And here it is, Every single thing that they were teaching us were life lessons that we didn't see at the time, but here it is. And that's the biggest thing. You want to make sure that you're giving them food for later on. Not necessarily to just play the game, not necessarily just for the weight room, but you want to make sure that you're doing the best that you can to raise great individuals.
I think that's the bigger thing with football. That's the bigger thing with wrestling. That's the bigger thing with baseball is like, especially when they're at that young age, it's like, yeah, it's cool to win a state title as a high school football team. But what's even more important is like, having these kids turn into like responsible, good adults in the future.
Exactly.
And there's only so many conditions that you can control.
Yeah.
Right. But being the best person that you can helps in the long run. So for 2024, what's like your big goal, business and for coaching?
My big goal for 2024 for coaching, for coaching has been to make sure that a lot of my kids are being seen. There's a lot of them that want to be recruited. And so it's making sure that we're getting to the different camps that we're going. We got a 7-on-7 camp that we're getting ready to do at SU. We've been making big connections with the SU coaches so that we're able to establish that and have a branch of, where do we need to go? What do the kids need to do so that we're able to be seen by a lot of Division I coaches? Making sure that we're out there doing the recruiting to make sure that the kids are seen. So it's building those relationships in the coaching world so that we're able to make sure the kids are going where they want to go, So there's a lot of them that want to. There's a lot of young ones that we have. So building those relationships within the college world so that we can get them moving in the right direction for that.
Yeah.
Business wise, my goal business wise, work wise, has always been the same. And as long as it stays that way, you know, I'm in the right industry, is being able to help as many people as I possibly can, to get qualified, to be able to be in homes, and to be able to guide them in their finances. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, but I can at least get them going in the right direction so that they're able to be approved later on. So always having the best interests in mind for them will always lead to business growth.
Do you put a number on it? You don't have to share that number, but do you put like a hard number on that?
I always want to beat last year.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm beating last year's number, I'm like, great. But I try not to put a number on it, because if I'm so focused on a number, now I'm losing the sight of what I'm really doing it for.
Yeah.
You know, which is the people.
For me, when I got into real estate, it was X amount of dollars, so I made as much as I did in retail. That was the only goal.
Yep.
And as long as I could hit this number, then I would be fine. And the move to real estate has been fine. And for me, looking at that number has helped like motivate me.
Yep.
I don't do in the sense like Tom Ferry. I love his coaching, but he's very like, count on the transactions, divide that by 12 months, then divide that by 52 weeks. And that's how many transactions you do every week. And that's what you need to look for. That's not, I just want a bigger goal for me to shoot for the year.
Of course.
To help me at least be like, okay, at least I did better than I would have done if I stayed in retail.
Oh yeah.
It's still, I don't know about you, but it still feels like a dream to me, because I wanted so long to get out of retail.
Yeah.
And for me making the transition to real estate, I wasn't sure if that was ever going to happen. So being a full-time real estate agent is beautiful in the sense that like there are some hard days, but like it's still, for me, my worst day in real estate is still better than my best day in retail. And it's not that like people in retail were mean to me or I hated it. I had a lot of people that I loved and I enjoyed working with, but it was just, I don't know, man. This is just a more fulfilling, more of a job that like fits my personality better, you know?
Yeah, so I say it all the time. Raymore and Flanagan was always a blessing. They taught me so many different things, so many different lessons, and I grew as a salesperson. I grew as an individual altogether. I was around a lot of older people that kind of guided me in my career at Raymore and Flanagan, and also got me into that management role. So that I'm able to be better with people. And Raymore and Flanagan developed my communication skills with people, because as a manager, I had to work with a lot of people that was upset if the furniture wasn't right, or sometimes you'll have, you know, people that would come in and be nice and super excited about different things, but it got me prepared to have conversations with just the general public, being able to have that open communication, open lines, and being able to establish a relationship with them. So shout out to Raymore and Flanagan, because it definitely did get me prepared for this role. But yes, 100%, it still feels like a dream. Like every single time I wake up, I'm sitting there like, this is what I do for work.
I know.
Like, this is awesome.
Yep.
There's times like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's times that you're pulling long days.
Yeah.
There's times that, like you said, you got something in between. Like I have practice today, so I'm going to have to work after we get out of practice, probably till 10, 11 o'clock at night. But
it doesn't feel like work though, right?
Correct.
It doesn't feel like work. Yep. That's always been my thing, is it doesn't feel like I'm working.
Correct.
Because like if I'm up at like 10 o'clock typing an offer, I'm not working. I'm helping. Yes. I'm helping Stephanie, or I'm helping so-and-so. And it helped shifted my perspective a little bit and just made me more appreciative of like what I had, because retail, dude, that was a thankless job. Like you said, Thanksgiving and Christmas, only 2 days you would get off, right, of the year.
Yep.
And then when you were done with Thanksgiving, you better get your butt up at 4 a.m. to get to the store the next day. So you got to go to bed at 7 o'clock. Can't hang out with anybody. You got to go right to bed.
Be ready.
So like it was always, I don't know. It's just it's a cool gig and I like it.
For sure. No, I love it. Like you said, it doesn't feel like work. And that's why I'm always willing to work. Like the weekends, things to that nature, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. Like when people are like, hey, mortgage broker, I work weekends, I work nights. I don't work as many holidays anymore. But I do work weekends and nights, and I'm always available for my clients as well as my agents. So that's one of my biggest things, is that I always want to be readily available, because I like what I do.
Even when I'm helping somebody though on a holiday, like say I'm like showing a couple houses on 4th of July or something, right?
I'm like,
for sure. I'm showing them houses for like 2 hours, And then the rest of the day I can do what I need to do with my
Correct.
family, and I can spend time with them rather than being locked in a store for 10 hours.
Exactly.
You know, and not being able to see them and hang out with them. And then when I get home, they want to type an offer? No problem. Ashton, you want to go play in your sandbox?
Yep.
Let me just go
Get it
type up
taken
something
care of.
real quick.
Yep.
Easy peasy, you know?
Exactly.
So, I don't know. It's just, it's nice. What is the, in 10 years from now, what does Coach Johnson look like?
Oh.
Coach Johnson and loan officer Johnson.
So I thought about this multiple times because I've been asked, do I want to be a head coach? And it's a lot of responsibility. So Coach Johnson in 10 years, maybe looking at a collegiate level, like trying to do something more to impact now.
College level?
Yeah, now
Okay.
from the younger kids to, a little bit older, you know, and seeing how we can do that. So
How do you lay the groundwork to get to that position?
honestly, I think that's being at where I'm at now, coaching the high school level, being able to win different titles, section title, state title, if it does come to that. But a lot of coaching is networking, communication with those guys and being at those levels. I mean, I know as coaches from UB, been establishing relationships with the Syracuse coaches, but it's just networking. A lot of it is networking. So I think that's where I would want to go. Do I say that that's, the ultimate goal? No, that's not the ultimate goal, So we'll see. We'll see what happens and see how it plays out. Business me in 10 years, it's going to be, continuing helping people. I love what I do. It's like you said, it's a dream job. So it's just like growth. Hopefully it's just continue to beat the numbers from the years before and being able to continue helping people. So
The only thing that would piss me off is if you go to a collegiate level and you go to University of Buffalo and then you're not here anymore. That would piss me off. But I mean, cool. You want to do that? I mean, sure. Don't let me be selfish. You do your thing.
listen, we're still going to be in our GQ magazines.
Yeah.
They're going to be calling us up. We got to go there and get that taken care of.
I don't know, man. I'm not. You and Paul Sacco had me beat, though. I always, every time you guys are in the room, I'm like, I'm so underdressed, man. But I will say, one thing that I loved was when Al Peachy was the New York State president. I remember going to, it was like a Howard Hanna summit. And I walked in, Al's like greeting people as they come in, and everybody was like in suits, and I'm like dressed how I am now, like in a button up, nice pair of pants, and I'm not like wearing a tie and a suit. I'm like, said to Al, I was like, I feel like I'm so underdressed here. And he said something that made me never want to leave Howard Hanna or the company. It was that, but that's exactly why we like you, is because you are who you are.
I love that.
And I love that he wasn't like trying to say, well, you should start wearing 3-piece suits, because that's just not, like, I'll wear them to an awards or like to a dressy thing, but that's just not like reflective of who I am.
Yeah.
Props to Paul, but that's who he is. You know, that's what makes him feel the most comfortable.
Exactly.
But dude, that's not me.
I mean, listen, he's always second best when it comes to me. Paul, you heard it here. You're second best. No, I'm joking. Paul, I'm joking.
Now he's going to be so mad, and he's going to want to be the next guest on this podcast 100%. So he can just dunk on you.
Oh, all day. You know it. That's how he is.
Can you believe already an hour, dude?
Oh, wow.
Crazy,
Wow,
right?
yeah.
So what we'll do is any of your links or any way you want people to get a hold of you, we'll put in the show notes below.
Yes.
So if you want to reach out to Antwauan, we'll have all his contact information in the description below. Anything else you want to say?
Listen, thank you for having me on the show. It's phenomenal.
Dude, long overdue.
Yeah,
I wanted to make this happen way sooner.
Very much so. I'm sorry. I get nervous.
Dude, no, it's all good. Dude, you did great. Like, that's why a lot of people are like, oh my God, I don't know if I can talk for an hour. I don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just trust me.
Yeah,
We're gonna ask you some open-ended questions. We're gonna get you going on stuff, and time will fly.
Oh
quick.
yeah, for sure. Like you said, it's having a conversation with a friend.
That's all.
That's it. I love it.
I'll appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you.